Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Fleet Admiral Akainu is likely one of the most powerful Marines in the entire fleet, being the one who commands the organization of the Navy. And even having such a high position within the Navy, Akainu still has many difficulties in dealing with the pirates who are constantly causing him problems, especially one Monkey D. Luffy. What's more, now that he's one of the four emperors, he possesses such great power that only the Gorosei know how dangerous Luffy currently is. And even one of the Gorosei, Saturn, is personally going to Egghead Island to deal with this great threat. So in today's video, we're going to talk about Akainu, what he thinks about Luffy's accomplishments, and what his next move might be, and how Akainu might try to stop Luffy from achieving his goals. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel, or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like, and even subscribe, and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it continues to motivate us to make more content. If you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, Fleet Admiral Akainu is strong, intelligent, and a very capable leader, and he's managed to make the Navy look like it's a very powerful organization, capable of preventing any pirate from getting what they want. But on the other hand, Sakazuki is very extremist and a really strict person, seeking only results which coincides with his own version of extreme righteousness and justice. In fact, his mantra is the belief in absolute justice, and he follows it at all times, regardless of the situation. He is even capable of going against his fellow Marines just so that his absolute justice is fulfilled. Now, Akainu's model derives from the idea of complete justice, something that the Marines still follow, though not quite as aggressively as Akainu. While we constantly see Akainu being very strict in every situation he appears in, he seems to be also able to act in a more civilized manner. Akainu even seems to be able to hold back at times, having chosen to spare the lives of Jewelry Bonnie and her crew after they were beaten and tied up by the Blackbeard pirates. Akainu simply left them trapped so the Navy could capture them later, which, as we saw, Akainu along with the other Marines were able to find Bonnie, and they could have taken all their lives quite easily, but he preferred to save it and just leave it to the Navy to pick them up. Akainu was even able to let his former colleague Aokiji out of the Marines without any consequence after losing a 10-day duel for the position of Fleet Admiral. Quite a noble thing coming from Akainu. Even in some of the more recent chapters, Akainu has still chosen not to send the Marines after Aokiji to capture him, knowing that he's become a pirate and he's also working with Teach in search of some still mysterious objective. It seems the only pirate that Akainu does not measure his efforts to try and capture is Luffy, the pirate in which Akainu considered a great threat even back during the Marineford arc, and ended up coming true to this day. This is first due to the fact that Luffy is the son of the Revolutionary Army's leader, known as Monkey D. Dragon. Akainu sees him as one of the most dangerous threats to the world, along with Ace until he put a hole through his chest. And he also has an immensely dangerous obsession with ending Luffy's life. Currently, Luffy is causing some serious problems on Egghead Island, and this has caused the Navy to resort to sending an admiral and even a Gorosei to try and stop him. In fact, just Luffy's presence on Egghead Island already made the Navy and even the world government worried about what this Yonko could intend to do on the island. And this is even more compounded by the fact that he is now alongside Vegapunk, who has become a major threat to the world government. Akainu is astutely aware of the events that are gonna play out in the next few chapters of One Piece, and wants to know the smallest details so that he can know whether or not Luffy was captured by Kizaru and Jay Garcia's Saturn. And this is something that Akainu desperately wants to happen, as Luffy has always been a big threat to the Navy, and Akainu has always known, but no one has ever believed his words. It almost seems like from the beginning he knew that Luffy would grow to become a major threat in the future, even if it didn't look like it. Akainu considers that the children carry the sins of their fathers or their parents, so Luffy would eventually become something similar or worse than Dragon. In order to prevent this, Akainu tried at all costs to take Luffy's life during the Marineford arc, in an attempt to prevent Luffy from becoming the problem that Akainu foresaw in the future. Luffy would become a larger and larger obstacle in the way of the Navy, something that Luffy had already demonstrated before, as the Rubber Boy had been managing to gain great fame quite quickly, facing and defeating extremely powerful enemies at the time, which made Akainu aware of the progress of this young pirate. During the Marineford arc and the incredible battle between the Marines and the Whitebeard pirates, after Akainu took Ace's life, Luffy was left in shock after witnessing the scene of his brother having his life taken by the Admiral. And then Akainu pursued Luffy for the remainder of the war, phasing out any of Luffy's allies who tried to impede his passage, from pirates to revolutionaries. Akainu did everything he could to prevent Luffy from leaving Marineford alive. To that end, the Admiral ignored all surrounding threats and only focused on taking Luffy's life. Akainu even confronted two ex-warlords, being Jinbei and Crocodile, with the only singular desire to take Luffy's life. Several pirates had to try and stop Akainu from reaching Jinbei, who was carrying an unconscious Luffy. The Admiral was able to practically ignore most of these pirates, and even almost was able to take the lives of Luffy and Jinbei. With an incredible leap, Akainu was able to pierce Jinbei's body, allowing some of his magnet to spill through onto Luffy's chest, forming the scar that became the symbol for this character. But even after giving it his all, it still wasn't enough to capture or take Luffy's life. It wasn't any of the pirates who entered the battle, it was really Shanks himself that stopped it all from happening. The presence of the red-haired Yonko made Akainu worried about trying to take Luffy's life while Shanks was in his presence, because underestimating a Yonko would be a great danger to his own life. So Akainu just allowed Luffy to be rescued by Law and to be taken to safety. But Akainu still showed frustration when Shanks' intervention allowed Luffy to escape. Kizaru tried to do something about it, trying to target Law's submarine so Luffy wouldn't be taken. But then he was stopped by one of Shanks' most powerful pirates, known as Shanks' right-hand man, Ben Beckman. But Akainu ended up doing the one thing that nobody else in the entire series has been able to do, and that was to break Luffy's spirit completely. Something in which he's already shown himself several times to be resistant to in pretty much any other situation. But all of the damage and pain that Luffy suffered at the hands of Akainu left his body and mind completely shaken, and prevented Luffy from being able to do anything, something that even Kaido or even other powerful pirates just couldn't do. Many in the community have thought that this is the foreshadowing that Akainu could be a future opponent for Luffy, being practically one of the last enemies that Luffy will have to face in the end of his journey, one of the final obstacles Luffy has to pass to become the king of the pirates. Another thing unique in this relationship between Akainu and Luffy is that Akainu always refers to Luffy as Dragon's son, making a connection with what I said earlier at the beginning of the video. Akainu links Dragon's sin with Luffy's, referring to Luffy only because of his kinship, which has an even greater presence in terms of his popularity. This is one of the main reasons Akainu sees Luffy as a threat on a global scale, based solely on his heritage, and that Luffy must be eliminated at all costs. But now with his Yonko title, this is beginning to worry Akainu all the more, because now that Luffy has become an emperor, Akainu just can't go out and do whatever he wants about it. If he tries to take on a Yonko, this could be harmful for both sides, causing a new big confrontation to occur in a certain location. And what's going on currently in Egghead is just an appetizer to the thing that's going to happen on a much grander scale. So far, Luffy's only taken out CP0, causing this conflict to bloom, but if Akainu confronts Luffy directly, the fight could be way more destructive. But one other thing to consider is that Luffy personally has a great hatred towards Akainu for taking his brother's life. Although after learning Akainu's promotion, he quickly returned to his former carefree attitude after a brief moment of anger. After Akainu learned about Luffy defeating Doflamingo, he was shocked and angry over the incident, and during a heated argument with Fujitora, Sakazuki demanded that he arrest Luffy. Akainu was even more enraged by Luffy's fame after the Total Land incident. And now, after the downfall of Kaido and Big Mom, Luffy has become an emperor, and Akainu's anger towards Luffy's fame continues to grow even worse. Upon hearing that Luffy was on Egghead, Akainu sent Kizaru to deal with Luffy and assist Rob Lucci. So in these next several chapters of One Piece, we could see the build towards a strategic confrontation between Akainu and Luffy, until that epic moment of the meeting between these two characters arrives, causing then a fight which most of us in the fandom have been waiting for and wonder how far and wide it will reach and the ramifications that will happen after the battle is over. But with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it. When do you think this matchup between Akainu and Luffy is going to happen? And how do you think it might play out? Do you think this is going to be something that happens right after Egghead Island? Or is this going to be something that really waits until the very end? Also, how do you think Luffy might deal with Akainu's powers now that he has Gear 5th? I mean, we've seen him do all kinds of things like spinning around lightning bolts and trying to eat Rob Lucci. So how do you think it might play out against the Magu Magu no Mi? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.